So it sounds to me like this is a story of follow the money.
Yeah, and maybe it's follow the money, follow the relationships, follow the network, and then you can also try to figure out how to position your company in a way that it's more than just your own company. When you're able to be really kind of, one of my favorite books is a book on game theory called Non-Zero, and it's all about how as civilization has evolved, people are playing more and more complicated games with each other, and the people and the organizations and the societies, the governments even, that play the best positive sum games are basically dictating terms for everybody else who are used to thinking, well, there's a dollar here, and if I want that dollar, you have to lose a dollar. It's everybody who's sort of saying, hey, how can we connect and do things together? So it was, yes, absolutely. In a sense, it was our money actually telling us, no, stay where you are. And then as a result of that, because our first investors were Denver based, and they were like, no, that's a really unique opportunity. And then because we stayed, I think it opened a lot of doors. So I would definitely tell any entrepreneur who's looking around, there is more startup infrastructure now than ever before. The pandemic has made everybody comfortable doing deals via Zoom. We finished a Series B last year. That was done, half of that was done over Zoom. And I can tell you that our Series C is almost entirely done over Zoom. So there's more tools than ever for kind of industrious, especially physician entrepreneurs, because the market is really looking for them. So play the other games too. Look around and see who you can connect with. What value would you bring to a university? What value would you bring to the impact funds? One of the things I'm most proud of about Circuit and our team is that the Western New York Social Impact Fund has invested. Now, they are a growth-oriented fund. They're run by one of the founders of the medicines company, Tom Quinn, but their focus is they're investing in companies that are fully committed to improving DEI across it, and really equity of care across the 8 counties of Western New York. And so the fact that they don't need to invest in us, they could invest in brick and mortar that's going to build jobs on the east side of the city, which is super important work, but they also see value in creating new access to clinical trials as a care option for diverse populations. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And actually, it seems that now, there's pitch fests all over the place and pitch competitions and whatever, but now another box you pretty much have to check off is how are you going to accomplish diversity, equity, and inclusion KPIs. If that's not a slide on your pitch deck, it's going to raise some eyebrows.
So I think it's Einstein who pointed out that after a career as a rebel, God's joke is that now he's an authority, right? So having made thousands of startup mistakes, I get asked by younger founders all the time, like, hey, could you advise us? And I'm like, I don't think I'm the person you're looking for. You're probably looking for somebody who's had a liquidity event, but I can certainly share how many mistakes we've made along the way. So I sat with a really great team, 4 really great programmers, super smart. They got a great product in fintech, clear path to victory. I'd actually introduced them to a friend of mine who's a VC who loved what they're doing, so they're rolling. And they hadn't called me over there to talk strategy. They had talked me over there to talk culture. So Circuit has a really strong culture. The CEO, it always rolls up to the CEO for the credit, but obviously anybody who's been on a team knows culture is kind of, moved around and shared between the values of the people actually working together. So we're in Inc. magazine, best places to work. We're a fast company. We finished 20th nationally this year. It means one of the great mysteries of my life, beating like billion-dollar companies on that list for best places for innovators. So that's the team reflecting on what it's like to come to work. In our offices and on Zoom and all the rest of that stuff. And you just can't fake that because it's all about what they say anonymously about the company when you're not around. And so they were actually asking me, how do we solve for DEI and how do we we want to build a company that's got the right values. We believe in these things. We want to build a fair America. How do we do that? And so I candidly told them, and they're great guys, their values are in the right place. I said, the very next hire, has to reflect that ethos because you're at 4 now. And if you get to 10 looking like you guys do, you'll never change this problem, right? Because she will have other options, right? There's other companies looking for that really great developer who happens to be a woman. Or if that developer happens to come from a diverse background, they're Black or Latinx or Asian or any other orientation, if they come into that room and they feel like, I can work anywhere. Like, do I really want to work where I'm going to be the odd person out? I think that's the challenge. And so, one of them had mentioned to me that, oh, actually, we had a really great candidate come through, but she turned down our offer. So I said, why? And they said, well, she wanted, she was coming from a healthcare job and she had better benefits. And I said, what was the delta on the benefits? And they're like 10K. I said, well, you just found out what you're willing to pay or not willing to pay for diversity and inclusion, right? If it was me in that situation, I wouldn't lose a great candidate who broadened the voices of the field. And I point this out all the time. The reason DEI is important is not because it's because you don't have to do it because it's the right thing to do, even though it is the right thing to do. And you don't have to do it because it builds the America we all want to live in, even though it will build the America we all want to live in if we're playing with a fair field. But you do it because there are very few business advantages left in the world. There are very few strategic ideas that can be deployed effectively. This is one of them. If you are great on gender, if women come to your company and look at it and they think, I would absolutely be able to work in a place here where my promotions will be based on merit. I'm not going to be harassed and it's going to be a welcoming environment. You're going to outcompete your competition on 51% of the people you interview. I mean, you can't overstate that advantage. We crush it on that one. We've hired really amazing, talented people, including starting today, our new head of our VP of diversity and community engagement, Jordine Blaze. And Jordine is leaving $1 billion, really terrific biopharma in Boston to come run our program and to build that thing. And the reason she does is because she can come into our company of 60 people and see that we're not kidding around. We mean this. We spend time to source talent from a variety of places. Circuit is 70% women. The leadership reflects that percentage. So it isn't just, one level is well distributed and one level is kind of monolithic. We actually think these are strategic advantages and our output reflects the fact that we're probably right about that. So I always say, it is the right thing to do, but you should also do it because it's good business.
Yeah, there's an eminent business case for diversity, equity, and all the other reasons you mentioned. Yep. So, and I can attest to simply put, it's fun working with your company and the people in it. So I enjoy that. Anyway, so moving on, we talked a lot about your journey, sort of some other issues, but kind of give us the value prop or the pitch on Circuit. What in fact do you do?
Yep. So the problem we were interested in is that if you look at the legacy problems in bringing a new medicine to market through a clinical trial, there's 3 of them that are uncontroversial. It's really hard to find and enroll people. People drop out. And clinical trials have a huge diversity problem. And this is red hot attention of the FDA and the NIH right now. So those 3 are always presented as independent problems to solve. And Circuit's usefully non-contrarian idea is that's all one problem, because we for 50 plus years have been using the same legacy infrastructure to execute clinical trials. These are the emergent properties of this. So if the problem is that we'd like to be able to find more people and get them into clinical trials, we'd like them to be happier and stay in trials, and we'd like to build a demographic of participants that's more representative, well, then our solution is we need to operationalize the other 95% plus of healthcare spaces that could do research to do research. And so that's the problem and our thesis. And then our solution is really, to get there, you have to do 2 things. You have to make it easier for a patient online to figure out where they should go next near them. The way clinicaltrials.gov works, and I have nothing but great things to say about the database, but it's just not designed to be consumer facing. So clinicaltrials.gov will show you a list of trials in medical jargon that all of the doctors on this call, would struggle with if they were outside our field. I once had trouble figuring out what a heart failure trial was doing. I'm an electrophysiologist. That shouldn't be that hard. So, that's a good sign of how hard it was for me for a patient, for God's sake. So we built Trial Journey, which is a platform a little bit like Health Grades, to make it easier for a patient to ask and answer a simpler question. Here's my diagnosis and here's where I live. Who's doing research near me that I could talk to in those fields? That's a better first step. Excuse me. Second part is you have to create the infrastructure in those health systems to succeed at research. So that's people, that's research coordinators, data scientists to find them in the EMR, that kind of thing. So it's really that 2-way turnkey: service for the patient to get to the trial and more places where the trial can happen.
Okay, so you have a network of office-based and other places, participants in the trials. So that's basically the idea. And if I were a primary care doc, or if I were some other kind of doctor that has an applicable trial, how do I do this? What's involved, and why would I do this? other than the obvious reasons of you're trying to improve medicine and quality, all the good stuff. But practically, why would I do this?
Yeah, I think on a fundamental level, research is interesting. Like I've done it in running a very large, big cardiology group CP practice, and I still did it, and I thought it was interesting. But what did I have? I had a turnkey research ecosystem around me. If I was doing it in my office by myself and I had to task my very busy team to add this to their list, I don't think it would be an enjoyable experience. And we have a lot of data on this, right? Like if you look at the investigator demographics right now, they're aging out. We have a real issue with where the generation that created mostly done most of the trials over the last 20 years are getting ready to retire, and they haven't been replaced in any kind of coordinated way. So, the reason a physician should think about adding this to their practice are really threefold. There's real patient value, and patients, appreciate having research as a care option. Even when they say no, they appreciate being asked. Two is there's brand elevation. And that's maybe more of a reality for the health systems themselves. They're very sensitive to it, but I think it's true of the physicians as well. There's the physicians who do research are perceived as part of a higher quality system than those who don't. And then three is that it can be revenue generating, which is in the current climate when more is being asked of us and less is being reimbursed. There's real value there. So I think it's this combination. I think more broadly, if you look at what burns physicians out, it's not taking care of patients. It's not answering interesting questions, right? It's the fact that we've been turned into digital scribes, until Alexa rescues us. We're all stuck kind of, figuring out the billing codes and doing chart work that could absolutely be disrupted. So until that happens and medicine becomes, kind of fun again, what we have to do is look for other opportunities that are intellectually interesting. This is one of them. And this particular thing that we do at Circuit is designed with the new to research physician who's in either a private practice setting or part of a big group that runs their practice or is in a health system that just hasn't added research before. So to get those kinds of physicians who have other things they can be doing interested, I think one of our successes is that I live that life too. So we've built a solution that's designed to bolt on and take kind of the friction out of it for the doc and for the health system, the risk out of it for the health system. But that's the key. I think whenever I hear from physicians who've tried it, and they call them one and dones, there's something like 70% of physicians who will do a clinical research trial will do one and then never do another one. If you look at that data, they had to come up with all the infrastructure support by themselves. That's a big ask.